This is the On CloudMonster 2, On Running's newest addition to the daily trainer category, and it's going to cause some serious problems for other brands this year. So for those who are not familiar with the On CloudMonster, or On's running shoes as a whole, the CloudMonster 1 was On's biggest or best entry, or where I think they kind of started to become a real contender in the running shoe industry with high quality shoes. So the first version was On's highest cushioned and comfiest, and also probably the best shoe that they had released at the time. And for me, it was one that I enjoyed, but also probably didn't enjoy it as much for easy running and steady running and maybe some tempo stuff as other competitors. It's still a great shoe, people got on with it and people really enjoyed it, but for me it still wasn't quite what I wanted, which is generally a higher stack shoe, a shoe that feels a bit more cushioned underfoot. And this is where this has completely changed with the On CloudMonster 2. It is a drastic difference, almost like a day and night difference. The other thing similar for these two shoes is the name, and also some obviously hole designs and some lacing systems, kind of similar, still changed, but we're going to get into that in this video and give you my full thoughts on this shoe. If you've tried this, please comment down below what you think of it, so other people can get a better idea from more people, different running styles, different paces, and that way it's the best way people can see how that shoe would suit them. I don't like going on the On website and reading what's new about the shoe, how much it weighs, if there's been a foam change, because I think it gives you some subconscious bias in there, whereas if you see something's changed on the website, then you're automatically going to try and pick up on those things, and maybe without even knowing, think that they've changed, even though they might not have. It's just your mind playing tricks on you. So I try to not read anything, not see any reviews until I've tried the shoe and see how it feels. So that's what I've done here. I still, as of this recording of the video, I will include it on the screen, the new specs, but I'm not even going to say them because I haven't checked. So I just want this to be completely unbiased. On have not paid us to do this review either, so they just sent the shoes for a review, and this is an honest review on them, and they're not going to be able to see the footage before this goes live. So completely honest, unbiased, not any subconscious bias either, so it's just my full thoughts. So as mentioned, I do prefer a softer, more high cushioned shoe, kind of what feels a bit nicer. So I sometimes try to sacrifice that snappiness or ground contact feeling shoe, which the On CloudMonster 1, by the way, especially in the forefoot, it's very snappy, and you kind of a bit closer to the ground, and it's quite aggressive in that side of things, whilst also having a good amount of cushion. But the second version is substantially more cushioned, a lot softer, and also has more stack in both the heel and also the forefoot. It's noticeably bigger, and I knew that without even seeing the specs. And especially in the forefoot, the cushion is a complete difference to the first version. In the first version, you kind of see the cushion, and to be honest, it was a bit stiffer in the forefoot than it was in the heel. Overall, it was still a pretty stiff shoe in terms of like an easy running shoe or a daily trainer, which a lot of people do like, but again, I prefer the softer side of things. So that was not an issue with this shoe, but it kind of didn't feel how I wanted it to feel. Whereas you can probably tell by how muddy it is. I'll try and get that on camera. I've been wearing this shoe a lot, pretty much for everything, easy miles, daily miles, and some faster stuff with some strides in there as well. So I've pretty much done everything in the shoe, and that's because it just feels unreal, and it's a very fun shoe to run with. First of all, starting with the lacing system. As you can probably see, compared to the first version, it is a similar structure, but on the second version, you've got a bit of a thinner wire, what keeps the laces together, rather than on this version, it's a bit more of a thicker material. And for me, that makes more of an elasticated fit, what fits a bit better to your foot. So the lockdown on this upper is perfect. Like the tongue is nice and thin, so there's saving weight there, but it's also comfortable, and it just fits really nicely on the foot. The upper as a whole is probably the most similar thing about this shoe. I'm not sure if there is a change, but ultimately it kind of does feel very similar. It's a bit more structured in the heel, so you can see as I push down there is a bit of push, but it's kind of all together. And also when you push the back, the heel cup or heel tab isn't going anywhere. Whereas on this shoe, if you push, it goes down a lot easier, and it's a lot less structured. It's a bit more just random, like you could push anywhere and that bit would go down and the other surrounding bits would stay where they are. And also the back is a little bit more loose as well. So the new shoe, more structured, a lot more innate stability as well. I'm not quite sure if this orange bit here, which isn't featured on this shoe, like this shoe just has one bit of foam going through it. The On CloudMonster 2 has a different section here, which feels pretty similar, I can't lie, in terms of density and softness, but it's separate. Maybe there's a reason for that, because as I'm going through my stride, it's almost impossible to pronate in this shoe for me. So it's very innately stable, even though it's not a stability shoe. It definitely passes the test in terms of keeping you stable on your feet and just going forward rather than a lot of lateral movement, which sometimes you get with high stack and softer shoes. Onto the midsole, which everyone cares about. I think the main difference between the two shoes in terms of the midsole and the outsole is the foam density. So the foam on the On CloudMonster 2 is much softer than on the first version, and it's also higher stack, as mentioned. That just means a more of an accommodating ride. Feels a lot nicer, especially at the easier paces and longer distances. This will save your legs a lot more than the first version, and the reason why I've been choosing this shoe over any other shoe I've got or in for review is because this has been kind of feeling the best at those paces. It's not as soft as, let's say, a New Balance Fresh Foam More V4 or a Nike Invincible, but it's a bit more lively, it's a bit more fun to run in, it's a bit more poppy, and it still has a lot of cushion as well. I would say it's a lot more comfortable than the Nike Invincible, and it's more stable than the Nike Invincible, and it's more poppy than the Nike Invincible. The only thing it doesn't quite have is as soft. But to me, I think a lot of people, the Invincible can be too soft at times, where it feels a bit dead, whereas this is always a bit lively, and you know, even if you're feeling rough on some easy days, it's enough to kind of keep you going. Massive change on the outsole from the first and second version. You can see through the shoe on the first version straight to the Speedboard. A lot of times stones got in that and it was really annoying. On the new version, that isn't the case. You've just got foam there. So more foam, first of all. You're not going to get any stones getting through and getting stuck here. And ultimately, again, like I said, more foam, more cushion, better feeling. The outsole remains pretty similar in terms of the rubber. As you can see, it's basically the same. You've even got the same design in terms of 3 at the back and then 6 at the front. You've got exactly the same there. I do think maybe it's because it's newer, but there is more traction, and also it's a bit thicker on the outsole. There seems to be a bit more rubber and also a bit more of a stick out with the dents of all the circles. So maybe that's just wear and tear. This is obviously a newer shoe, but it definitely feels a lot nicer underfoot. The only disadvantage I would say about this shoe, which is a disadvantage that I'm trying to reach, because I don't want to just leave a video where it's just all good things and there's not anywhere to improve. I would say that obviously, as mentioned, this heel counter is loose, whereas this heel counter is a bit stiffer, and that's great for ankle support. So anyone who's got, like, you know, dodgy ankles, I think it really keeps your ankle in place. But anyone who doesn't need ankle support, it's probably too supported, in the sense that you could have a bit more weight taken off if you didn't need it. But ultimately, it doesn't negatively affect you. It just means that the shoe could have been lighter if this wasn't there. But it's not a heavy shoe, doesn't feel heavy. It feels heavier than the first version, but that's because the first version's a lot less of a shoe, whereas this is a lot more of a substantial shoe. And like I said, it feels livelier than other competitors. And for me, I'm not sure on the exact weights between competitors, but even if this was heavier, which I'm pretty sure it's not, because it feels pretty light, it wouldn't matter because it still feels lively. So that's what you're after. It doesn't really matter too much about the weight. It's about how the shoe feels on the foot, which to me, in the minute, it's the most enjoyable shoe to wear. I prefer it to everything else, and I get to review pretty much every single shoe out there and competitors for that easy running and daily mileage stuff. I would say where the first version was very tuned to that daily stuff, so you can tempo in it, you could do some steady running, do some easy running. It felt best at probably steady paces. This feels good across the board, but I think it's more tuned to that higher stack, easier pace. And that's why I think it excels the most, where it just feels really nice. As you pick up the paces, I would say it's still better than the first version, but it doesn't feel as speed ready, as fast, because again, the drop's only 6mm on this, so it's not as aggressive of a drop. Also, you've got more in the forefoot overall, so the toe off doesn't feel as aggressive. So I don't think it is slower, but you just don't feel as poppy or as speedy going through your stride, which I like. I don't need that in an easy run shoe. It's just you probably wouldn't feel as swift on a tempo or some faster stuff. When you're doing strides and sprints, again, bouncy, feels great. Maybe too high for people to want to do like mechanic work in or drills in, but ultimately Really enjoyable shoe, and for me the On CloudMonster 2 is at the top of the class at the minute in terms of easy or steady miles. So for me, it's the shoe that I'm going to be wearing for the foreseeable future for my easy and steady runs. Just feels great. So yeah, if you want to get the shoe, we'll link it in the description. We don't get any commission off that, but it's just nice for you to be able to find the shoe and read the reviews for yourself. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.